What's going on, guys? So we finally know who Negan killed at the end of season 6. And man, oh man, I gotta say this first of all. If you haven't seen the episode and you're like, I don't want to know spoilers, why the hell are you watching this video? Because you know there's gonna be spoilers and we're gonna talk about the episode. So if you don't want it spoiled, get your ass out of here. Anyways, like I said, we finally know who Negan killed, and it was the original who we thought was gonna die because they died in the comic, Glenn and Abraham. And if you've been on this channel for a while and you've joined the live streams and you've watched the videos, I was calling this because it just felt right. Like, the one thing I've been very adamant about, I was like, it's going to be Glenn. I didn't want it to be Glenn back in the last season, but over the summer and all of the time we've had to think about who this was going to be, I was like, it's going to be Glenn. I always felt like that because they weren't going to stray away from the comic, because that death was so iconic in the comic that it would be stupid for them not to do it in the show. But it was so obvious that it was going to be Glenn that The Walking Dead needed to do something different. And what they decided to do differently was kill another person, that being Abraham. And the reason why I thought it was going to be Abraham was because he was the only one that had the balls to, like, stand up to Negan. He was like, what's up, motherfucker? Pick me, bitch! If I was Negan, I am going to pick the biggest, baddest motherfucker out of the group, and I'm going to kill that guy. Shut the fuck up, phone. I would kill that guy because, man, oh man, you cannot let somebody stand up to you like that if you're Negan and just let them live. No, I would have picked Abraham. I would have been like, alright, oh, you're gonna be ballsy? You're gonna be ballsy? Watcha! Although, for a split second, I was like, no, they are not gonna kill Daryl. When Daryl freaking got up and punched Negan, I was like, no. I was like, don't do it. I was kind of, for a split second, I was kind of scared because I didn't get to watch the episode live. I had to watch it like 3 or 4 hours later, so I deleted all my social media so nobody would spoil it for me. But my friend did text me. He was like, holy fucking shit. And I was like, no. But I could have swore I told him my theories, but I guess I didn't because he was, I don't know, he was surprised. So I was thinking it was going to be somebody else besides Glenn and Abraham, and I was going to lose my shit, which I would have. Now, I don't know how you guys felt about this, but I wasn't super shocked, and that's because I have been thinking about this since season 6. I was like, I know it's going to be Glenn, and it's going to be Abraham, because they needed to change it up. Like, The Walking Dead everybody knew about the comic. Like, there were so many people that had read the comic or looked ahead and they're like, oh my god, it's gonna be Glenn, it's gonna be Glenn. And they were throwing out all these freaking foreshadowings in season 6 and like close calls for Glenn. It was just like building up to be his death. And then The Walking Dead just did a smart thing. They left it on a cliffhanger so they could kind of feel it out, and then they were able to change it if they wanted to. And then they're like, you know what? We'll start with Abraham and have him be the one that gets killed first. And then we'll kill Glenn. Maybe they won't see that coming. But, you know, like I said, I've been thinking about this for a long time. And I just felt like that was going to happen. But the problem with me thinking about it for so long, and this might be the reason why I kind of hate the cliffhanger now, is this episode wasn't as impactful for me. Now, I know a lot of people were like, this is the greatest episode ever! I don't know. I liked it. I thought it was really good. I was on the edge of my seat with the Carl scene when freaking Rick was gonna have to cut off his arm. I was like, no fucking way he's gonna do that. But anyways, this episode, although it was intense, I just didn't, I don't know, I didn't get that like shock, because I was like, oh my god. Like, if they would have killed Abraham and Glenn on the season finale of season 6, I would have lost my shit. Like, I wouldn't have thought 2 people would have died. But since I had all of the summer to think about it, I was kind of like, oh, I was kind of expecting that. So that kind of ruined it for me. It didn't ruin the episode. I'm really excited for this season. But I will say that I thought about it so much that when it actually happened, I was like, yeah, I called that. And that kind of sucks, because the one thing I love about The Walking Dead or shows like Game of Thrones is the deaths usually happen out of nowhere. And you're just like, no fucking way. Like, when the whole thing, I'm still not over the Beth death. Like, Beth was one of my favorite characters, and when she just got her head blown off, I lost my shit. Like, I was not well for a few days because I loved Beth, and that death came out of nowhere. And that is good TV. Like, because you just don't expect it. And that's the kind of shit that happens in life, you know? You don't ever go and do shit in life and then have a break for a summer, and then you're like, oh man, somebody died. How long are we gonna have to think about this? That doesn't work. Well, I guess it could if you're like sick and stuff. We're not gonna get into that kind of shit, but you know what I mean. Now, I'm not sure if you guys watch The Talking Dead. I highly recommend you watch The Talking Dead if you don't watch the after show, because they usually have the actors on to talk about, you know, their farewells if they die, or just the episodes in general. And I watched this one because it was a 90-minute special, and they had almost the entire cast on there. And you got to hear from freaking Stephen Yeun and Michael Cutlass, I believe his name is. Man, that's such a badass name, Michael Cutlass. Like, come on, man. He's just such a hard ass. Anyways, so we got to hear from both of them, and they both said they went out like their characters should go out. Like, Abraham went out like a badass, and that, you know, he just stood up. Michael Cutlass said that Abraham was almost egging on Negan to pick him, to kill him, because he didn't want anybody else from his team to die. He even said to suck my nuts, which is the classic thing for Abraham. Abraham has always had the best sayings, and to say suck my nuts before he gets his head bashed in, perfect way to go. So, and Michael Cutlass said that he thought that was awesome. Like, he thought it was awesome, and he wanted to protect that family, and he stood up, you know, to Negan to show him, like, yo, if anybody's gonna die, it's me. Of course, everybody wanted to hear what Stephen Yeun thought about Glenn's death, and he said it was perfect. He said Glenn died in a very Glenn way, not thinking about himself. And what he means by that is, if you guys saw after he got his head freaking bashed in and his eye popped out, which they showed the behind the scenes prosthetics of that, and it was crazy. Like, you know, he's just there and his eyes popping out. But he said that he died in a very Glenn way, and what he meant was that Glenn, you know, if you didn't catch it because you were just so distraught that he was being killed, but Glenn tells Maggie, he was like, I'll find you. And, you know, he means that as in, like, I'll find you in the next life, because he's so in love with Maggie that he just doesn't care. He knows he's about to die, and he comes up, he can't even talk right, but he finds the words to say, I'll find you in the afterlife, because he feels like they're gonna be, they have that kind of connection, you know, like they're star-crossed lovers, as people would say. And that was just, it was very so much Glenn. And even if you watch The Talking Dead, they had like a little montage of like all of Glenn's best moments and shit. And it hits you right in the heart, because like I loved Glenn, because I feel like, you know, if you were a nice guy growing up, or you're just whatever, like just the dorky kid, or what, I felt like Glenn gave a lot of people hope, and he was that guy. He was just a pizza delivery boy when this whole show started, and he grew up and grew into being that person that a lot of people counted on, and he got the hot girl. Who would not sympathize with Glenn or want to be Glenn? Like, it was just, he was one of my favorite characters. I knew the death was coming, but it's just like, I had so much time to think about it, like I said, over the freaking course of the summer, that it didn't hit me as hard as I thought it would have. Now, which brings me to my biggest point, I think Glenn should have died earlier in season 6, when when he fell into the walkers. I think that should have been his death. Over this whole Negan thing, I knew that was his, like, oh my gosh, I knew that this was the most iconic death, like, in the comic books, like, just getting his head bashed in by Negan, and they should have done that, like, but they should have never gave us the other, like, almost death, where when he fell into the walkers, because I think if that was real, my heart and my world would have been destroyed, and I think that maybe should have been his death. And maybe that's kind of why, like, I didn't feel so much, like, emotions for when he died here, because I kind of knew it was coming, but at the same time, I had already went through the possible death of Glenn over here, and I was just like, oh my gosh, like, they should have just killed him there, and I could have had that, like, moment, but I didn't. And then, you know, and then it came through, and he got hit with the bat, and I was just like, oh, that sucks, Glenn. You know, I kind of want to know how you guys feel about that. Should Glenn have died earlier? Do you think he should have died with the bat? I mean, I feel like it should have went with the comic. Like, that works. But that other death would have been so much more impactful, I think, because Maggie was looking for him. He was trying to get back. The fucking douchebag that we all hated would have been the reason for Glenn's death. Like, it would have just been so crazy. And I don't know, I just feel like that would have been a lot more powerful. But hey, he's gone either way. And I don't know, it was just nuts to just like think about it. I was like, oh my gosh. Or at least they should have used that death for another big character, you know? I don't know. Let me know what you think about it in the comment sections down below. Let's go ahead and move on from the 2 major deaths that happened in this episode. Now, one thing I do want to point out before we do move on to the big bad motherfucker Negan, if you heard over the course of the summer or the off season when this show was being aired that they filmed every single death, that was 100% true, because a lot of people were talking about like, oh, we know it's going to be Glenn, we know it's going to be Glenn, and there's like photos or whatever. And The Walking Dead came out and said, we filmed every single death so we could change it up if we wanted to. Well, they weren't lying. They literally filmed every single death and used it as a, freaking element in the show, because when Negan was giving that speech, he was like, you've seen what could happen if you don't give me my axe. Think about what else could happen. And Rick is thinking about every single one of his family members dying. So yes, Walking Dead literally did film every single death, but they didn't do it in the way you would think. You would have thought that they were filming everybody's single death in the way they killed Glenn and Abraham. So it's like they would have had a scene where Michonne got her head bashed in, where Carl got his head bashed in, Rick, blah, 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 etc., etc. But that's not what they did. They just showed everybody getting hit with the bat once or twice. And yeah, so good on you, Walking Dead. Good on you for actually saying you did something and still incorporating it into the show. Like, that's pretty fucking awesome. Now to move on to that badass mother effer Negan. Dude, okay, we know you're a badass. And I'm not going to say, and like, again, I don't know if this was the episode because I had so long to think about it. But this episode was just like, they were emphasizing how crazy Negan is. And he is motherfucking crazy. Like I said, what he was going to do with Carl and Rick, I was on the edge of my seat for that. And, but man, I don't know. I want to see what else is going to happen with him. He made Rick look like a bitch. And I know some people have been on and off the freaking Rick train for when he went crazy, a few seasons back. Rick's always been one of my favorite characters on this show. And I've always been on his side. But dude, Negan put him in his place bad. Like, so bad. But I like it. I don't know, some of you are like, man, he's a bitch, man. Like, I like it because some of my favorite stories of all time are when heroes fall and rise back up. So I'm going to be so excited to see Rick get back to becoming a badass again. But right now, he's in bitch status because Negan put him in his place. And holy shit, Negan is a bad motherfucker. I can't wait to see what else Negan is going to be doing for the rest of the season. I have yet to read ahead in the comics because I did that for season 6. I read ahead and it spoiled a lot for me, obviously. And I've been watching Walking Dead before I even started reading the comics. So I like that suspense. So I decided to not read ahead. But I do know a majority of the stuff that does happen because, I know stuff. Anyways, I thought it's going to be really interesting to see where Negan goes from here and what the show's going to do with him. They have said that season 7 is going to stick more to the comics than the show has ever done before. So it's going to be pretty interesting to see what we're going to get from the comics exactly. I have a few predictions for season 7 because yes, although they might be sticking to the comic, we know it's a TV show. They're going to change it up a bit. So we saw after Daryl punched freaking Negan in the face and basically signed Glenn's death certificate, we know that Negan likes Daryl and he wants Daryl to be one of his crew members. And from the previews to for what we're going to expect in season 7, it looks like that they're going to put Daryl through like a training session and basically try to beat him down the way they beat Rick down. And they're going to do this more in like a fearsome, like you need to survive bitch kind of way and be part of the crew. You need to understand that you work for me now. Basically the exact same thing they did to Rick, but I think like 10 times worse. So they're going to put him through these obstacle courses or whatever it looks like and make him one of Negan's henchmen. But I think this is going to work out good for them because Daryl's going to go through some shit. And if you saw, like I said, if you saw Talking Dead, Daryl feels like Glenn's death, that Daryl is going to feel that, and he's going to always feel that, and it's going to be something that he's going to think about for seasons to come. But I think what's going to happen here is you're going to see Daryl go through the ringer and become a part of Negan's crew. But in the long run, this is actually going to help out Rick and the gang because Daryl's going to find out the inside operations of Negan's crew. And this is going to be like, he's going to end up hooking up with them eventually. This is not going to be the last time we ever see Rick and Daryl be buddy-buddy cop drama kind of shit. They're going to get back together. They're going to be friends. They're going to be side by side again. I just know it. But this time around, after, Rick and all the other communities are going to join up and probably fight out Negan's gang, Daryl is going to have inside knowledge on how to beat this crew, and I think that's what's going to happen. So you're going to see him become part of Negan's crew, but he's actually going to know how to do everything in that crew so they can fight him from the outside in or inside out. You know what I'm talking about. The next thing up is we do know that Maggie is going to Hilltop, and she's still ready to fight. After seeing Glenn's death, she straight up got up, and she was all like, you need to go to Alexandria, you need to get ready, we're going to fight. And Rick's just like, he has an army, bitch! Did you not just see what happened? And she's still down. So I think that's going to be Maggie's mentality forever. She's going to want to kill Negan just as much as Rick's going to want to kill Negan. And, right now she's going to go to Hilltop to see if she can save the baby and all that jazz. And she is eventually going to live at Hilltop. That happens at the comics. And she's more than likely going to probably become the leader of Hilltop, which would be pretty awesome. I don't want her to stray away from her family that we've seen her with the whole time. But, if she's going to be the leader there and then Rick's the leader of Alexandria, we'll just have awesome leaders. And they were building up Maggie to be a leader last season. And she was going to lead Alexandria after, what's-her-face died. I forget her name. But, so she was going to already take a lead position, and now they're not going to want to take one away from Rick, although they just did because he's admitting that Negan is boss. But I think we're going to see Maggie rise up to be that Hilltop leader after that douchebag over there dies, or however he's going to die. And then, so we're going to see that storyline play out as well over this season. On the next episode, we're going to be introduced to the Kingdom, which is, the leader is Ezekiel. He has a pet tiger. They're the dudes that you saw that had the horses and the armor. So that's going to be pretty interesting. I don't know too much about the Kingdom, but I do know eventually, as these seasons go on, or I don't know if it's going to all happen in Season 7, which it might, but, Negan's going to be a villain that's going to be around for a while. So it's very possible that Season 7 ends and Negan is still the big bad boss, and we don't get closure like we do every season. So it's very possible that this storyline drags out for 2 seasons. So I don't know. It's going to be really interesting to see how they do that on television with one villain constantly being there. But eventually, Alexandria, Hilltop, Kingdom, all of these groups are supposed to get together and fight back against Negan. So it's going to be pretty interesting to see what they do. I want to see what this is going to offer because, like I said, I don't know too much about the Kingdom, but I do know eventually we have 2 of our people there. They're probably going to talk about, like, this is what we're going through, this is what's been done, and, Ezekiel's maybe going to want to meet with Alexandria, or they're going to try to want to work out some trade agreement. But as of right now, we have all of our favorite characters are going to start going to these other colonies and villages and shit, and start, letting people know. So they're planting their seeds, as you say, to eventually get to this huge battle of awesomeness. I'm also pretty sure we're going to see a bunch of other freaking, Alexandrias of the world, because the wolves are still out there. Did we ever find out who those guys were that had the blue truck and they had the cowboy hat? I don't know if we ever found those, because they weren't Hilltop, they weren't the wolves. Those might have been Negan guys. I don't know. When it was the episode where Daryl was helping that one guy, Dwight, or whatever, I think that was the same episode, there was people there. We never found those guys. They might have been Negan's guys, because Dwight was working with those people anyway. But yeah, so I think we're going to get introduced to a whole bunch of new characters, and then we have all of our characters to talk about too. Should we think of, I don't know, I want to know in the comment section down below, what you guys think, who do you think is going to die this season? Right now, if I had to guess, I would think that it's either Sasha or Rosita that is going to die this season. I'm really hoping it's Sasha. Nothing against you, girl, but I need to keep my Latina on the show. So, Rosita, I hope you don't die this season. But I'm thinking it's going to be one of those girls is going to join Abraham up in the sky of Suck My Nutsville. Also, I think one of the girls is going to die because they didn't die in this whole big episode, because I knew there was no way that they were going to allow Negan to kill women. And I believe in the comics he doesn't kill women and he doesn't condone rape and shit like that, and he'll beat your ass if you do it. But I just knew there was no way that they were going to have a woman be beat to death by a bat on television. Although, if that shit would have happened, I would have been totally and utterly shocked by it. So maybe they should have thrown that curveball out there, because it would have been insane. Man, if Maggie would have died, oh my god, this video would have just been like clips of Maggie with the Eyes of an Angel song playing over it, because damn. Anyways, guys, that is it for this video. We're not gonna have that perfect life of dinner scene that we saw of everybody sitting at the table and they're all happy. But no, that's not how life works. Videos end, people die, that is what it works. I want to know what you think about Season 7. Was the cliffhanger worth it? Did you hate it because you were just like me and you thought about it so much that you're like, yep, totally called it? Did you think somebody else was going to die besides Abraham and Glenn? Were you shocked by this? So many questions. Freaking leave answers in the comment sections down below. Guys and gals, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and share with all your buddies. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button for all things nerdy and geeky on this channel. As always, guys, I am your host, JUICEbox. Remember, when you wake up in the morning, ask yourself something. Have I had my daily dose of juice? See you guys next time. Bye!